We'll at this point bring in boxing commentator Paul Upham. Paul, what have we just seen there? A bit of a shock result, really, in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, it was actually Jeff Horn a little bit heavier than Anthony Mundine. You could see Anthony Mundine, how passionate he is about this fight, that he really wants to win. People are writing him off and saying he doesn't have a chance in this fight. But I was actually quite interested to see Jeff Horn a little bit heavier. Mundine could have weighed up to 71 kilos. He was just over 70 kilos, so he's given himself a little bit of leeway there. And as we heard, the stipulation in the contract is he can't weigh more than 75 kilos tomorrow, 2 hours before the fight. So he actually has another weigh-in where Jeff Horn doesn't have that. But for Jeff Horn to weigh more than Anthony Mundine, I find that a little bit bizarre, and I'm a bit concerned about that because he's coming up from 66 kilos. And one of the issues I've got, why can Anthony Mundine win this fight? Jeff Horn has put a lot of weight on that he doesn't normally carry, and he hasn't done this before. And I'm concerned that he's put too much weight on. So during the fight, towards the end of the 12 rounds, he could start slowing up himself. So there's a few question marks in there for Jeff Horn if you're looking for reasons for Anthony Mundine to win. Yeah,
you mentioned the endurance and you mentioned the ability to go the whole way. Do you see this fight lasting until the end? Do you think those results kind of even it up a little bit, or...?
Everybody who fights Anthony Mundine and even who spars him always comments that he's so hard to hit. He's so hard to tag. He's very elusive. Yes, we've seen him knocked out before. We've seen him hurt before. But I think that, you saw how at 71 kilos, he trained really hard to get to that fight. He wanted to fight at 72 kilos and they made him fight at 71 to make the fight. So he's trained really hard, even though he's 43. And I personally have always said I don't think he should be fighting at 43. And that's nothing against Anthony's ability and what he's achieved in the past. But history says at the age of 43, he can't beat a 30-year-old Jeff Horn. For Anthony Mundine to win this fight, it's one of the best wins of his career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose in terms of the context around the fight and the amount of storylines that have been going on, one of them is the fact that Mundine's saying he won't stand for the national anthem. Do you see this being an issue tomorrow night?
It's not for Anthony. It won't change the way Anthony fights. It's one of his things that he's talked about before. He's done it before. People who are going there to watch the boxing match probably won't make much of it. People commentating from outside the sport of boxing will make something of it, and they can talk about that politically and socially. But for Anthony, I think what we saw at the weigh-in was, as I said, how passionate he is and how much this means to him. And he will have trained as hard as he possibly can, work with his father, come up with the best game plan. If people think Anthony Mundine's just going in there to lose, expecting to get knocked over, well, you're in for a big surprise because he's probably going to put on the best effort he can at 43. Whether that's good enough, we have to watch main event tomorrow night in Brisbane to see, and that's why we have the fights, to see what's going to happen. But I've got a question mark on Jeff Horn. I've got question marks on Anthony Mundine. To me, that makes an interesting fight because I can't say that Jeff Horn's going to win easy. Anthony Mundine's going to make it hard for him.
Yeah, you obviously have a very good insight into how these two fight, and it's quite a different approach from both. Can you talk us through their approaches to the fight?
The best analogy I can give is if people have seen the Anthony Mundine-Danny Green fights. A similar style, that Danny Green was an aggressive come-forward puncher, except Danny probably had better one-punch knockout power than Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn has been more a swarming, multiple volume punches where he wears his opponents down and eventually knocks them out. He's not a one-punch knockout arse like a Danny Green. He's a little bit shorter. We saw a little bit shorter than Anthony Mundine, where Danny Green was a little bit taller. I can see a scenario where Anthony Mundine has Jeff Horn coming at him and he's able to use his reach to pick off Jeff Horn, hit him with the jab, hit him with the right hand, move him around. Jeff Horn hasn't fought well against guys who move around. He likes guys who stand right in front of him. Manny Pacquiao didn't move as much when he had that great win at Suncorp Stadium. So I think Anthony Mundine has got the skills, and we saw that in Jeff Horn's last fight against Terence Crawford, who had the boxing skills that he intimidated Jeff Horn. And all the pressure's on Jeff Horn. There's no pressure on Anthony Mundine whatsoever to win this fight. So there's a lot of reasons why Anthony Mundine can be very competitive.
Yeah, you mentioned that bout with Terence Crawford. It's obviously a good point of reference for Jeff Horn. What do you think he took out of that? Obviously, you said that there were elements that he could hang his hat on. So certainly, even though it was a loss, there could be confidence taken out of that, couldn't there?
Two things clearly was the weight. He said this week to the media that he had to lose 4 kilos the day before the weigh-in to make the 66-kilo limit. Now in boxing, yeah, boxers usually cut some weight to get down to a more advantaged weight class, but to lose 4 kilos before the day before it's not right. And for him now to put all this extra weight on, which is what concerns me, that he's gone now from 66 up to 70 kilos, whether he's going to be carrying too much. And the other issue is just dealing with the boxing skills. You know, Jeff Horn, as much as he's achieved in that great win against Manny Pacquiao and a world title defence, he's still learning. He's still a novice. Anthony Mundine has had 60 fights. He's got so much experience and he's got the boxing skills. He may not be as fast as he once was. He's still got some good hand speed, but he's got those skills and experience. And to me, that's what Jeff Horn needs to work on in this training camp for this fight with Mundine. How to deal with Mundine's skills. He's got those subtle manoeuvres, like a Floyd Mayweather. He can do the shoulder rolls and make you miss and then counter. That's Mundine's thing. So it's really a test here for Jeff Horn to show us how much he's improved since that loss to Crawford. Yeah,
absolutely. And I suppose all weighed in now. What goes on for these guys in the next 24 hours?
Well, obviously Anthony Mundine can't put too much weight on, but as he said, he can put up 5 kilos on, so he's just going to rehydrate himself, refresh himself. All the hard work's done. It's the mental aspect, and that's an advantage to Anthony Mundine going into so many big fights in his career. That he won't be too worried about this. He'll be excited about this opportunity to have a big fight. He said it's the last fight of his career, whether it is or not. Jeff Horn, the same. You know, it's just a matter of dealing with the pressures of being the fighters there. You know, there's obviously media commitments, dealing with families and friends and those sort of issues. So it's a matter for the teams to get them to rest, just to take some rest and some time to think about what they're going to do. And on the night, it's always best fighter on the night. Who can perform? You can come up with 100 plans, but you've got to execute them on the night. And the best one on the night is going to win. And I can't say for sure who's going to win, Mundine or Horn. I think there's a genuine contest.
Yeah, and I suppose what lies ahead for the winner and the loser? What's in store for either side?
Well, Mundine said it's his last fight, but he did put a little caveat to say, if I have a good win, or when I have a good win and I get a big fight, he always wants to fight the Mexican Canelo Alvarez. I don't know if that's going to happen, but he said if he got a big fight offer, he may fight again. Maybe he just retires after a great win. For Jeff Horn, there's more pressure on him. A loss to Anthony Mundine not just dent his reputation locally, in the world boxing scene, which he wants to continue on at the age of 30, his reputation would be savage. For him to lose to a 43-year-old Anthony Mundine, he was criticised by Teddy Atlas, the American commentator, that he didn't really beat Manny Pacquiao. He got a gift decision. People would be reinforced to think Jeff Horn is a bit of a fake, a bit of a fraud. So Jeff Horn needs a really good win, not just a scrape-through win, but a good win to reinforce his world reputation if he wants to continue in winning world titles.
Yeah, plenty of points to prove in many respects. Paul, thanks for your insights. Really appreciate your time.
Great to be here.